Hello and welcome to Pens, Paint and Whiskers. Today I'm going to do a paint along, or at least I'm going to take you through the steps of a paint along. I imagine it's going to be maybe 4 videos. There'll be a part 1, 2, 3, 4. So what I'm going to do is I am redrawing a merman from one of my very old sketchbooks. I think I mentioned in one video that on a tour I wanted to redraw one. So now I'm going to redraw one, and it's just a little sort of step-by-step of what I do and how I paint, and each of the steps going along. Hopefully you can draw along and learn something and paint along with it, with me. So I plan to do this guy in watercolour, but we'll see how we go. As you can probably see, I have a very, very faint outline made of how I want him to look. I do a little biro sketch in sometimes even a scrap of paper, and sometimes even at the desk in work or unoccupied during my lunch break. I might just sketch out something very quickly, and I did so, and now once he's down on paper and I'm quite happy with how he looks now, I'm going to just go over him, and then I will try watercolour hopefully in my next video, but this is the first setting up stage, I call it. This is my Derwent Light Wash Sketching Pencil. For watercolour, I would choose this particular one, mainly because when I go over him in water, this shape, his shape, the sketch of him shall disappear underneath, so we won't see any marks. And it just looks tidier and it looks nicer for when I'm hopefully going to ink him. So I've decided to do a head study of him because he's got quite lovely spines, or brow spines, or interesting facial features, we'll say. And I decided to show those off because far away, full body sketch, you wouldn't necessarily see all of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, for the benefit of the camera too, because it is quite a sunny day, and sometimes my light gets bleached out because I am sitting in quite a sunny place. I'm just going to go over him in my sketching pencil, and with this Derwent sketching pencil, I don't need to worry how dark I do these sketches, because as I said with the watercolour, they will in fact wash out and nothing will remain of them. So I'm just gonna put in everything. So this fella here has got quite high cheekbones, and each of those cheekbones have little spines on them, and he's got a lot of spines on his temple and a lot on his forehead. So as I said, I imagine he's maybe water dragon merman, a mixture of the two. And I envisioned that he should be a nice minty green. So in one of my videos along the line, so maybe a 4-parter, in part 4 maybe I will be highlighting all of these spines and showing you guys how I do it. So we'll give him a deep nostril. Like I said, I like these creatures that I can just make up as I go along, and sort of add features or think about them as I go along. So this guy now has little spikes on his horns. You don't see many mermen with horns, I will admit, but this guy I think is a water dragon merman. So he's got he's got horns, and he has a long tail, but not as long as my other merman, simply because I want to fit him in on the page. And it's an A4, I should mention. I am using Ohuhu A4 marker pad, and it is, I think, 300 GSM, or if not, it's at least 250 GSM, so it is fairly thick paper. And I have tested this out before, and yes, you can do watercolour in it. It takes watercolour very well. So there's his head study. So now I'm going to go further away and draw in the rest of his body. So as I had planned, his body actually is going to curve around his main head study. So he's somewhat going to frame himself in a strange way. So I'm just loosely going around my light pencil sketches that I made in work. And I'm going to give him some spines along his arms. So he's going to look a little bit, I suppose the closest in real life, maybe a sturgeon maybe? Or a crocodile, is that a, yeah, crocodile maybe. Crocodilian maybe, I think. Yeah, I think so. I'd imagine he's quite long and strong, and lives in some sort of temple pond somewhere. Maybe he's a guardian, and got quite long claws. One thing is, oh yeah, webbed fingers. We'll give him webbed fingers because, as I say, he lives in water, so he needs webbed fingers. I tend to work out hands a little bit later in the initial execution, so I shall leave the hands for now because there's something funny going on with these. So I'm just going to not let them distract me now. And if we need to go back and correct them, which I know I will, because hands, I think, are almost every artist's difficulty even. Certainly mine are anyway. I wouldn't be the best at hands, but I can see already that this fella now has very strange looking hands. So further along, I'm going to go and wipe them out. And when I've wiped them out, I'm going to do some posing myself, and I'm going to hopefully get them right. I do a lot of my placements and my body posing. My own body lends itself to my art. If you got a body and you want some free reference poses, look in the mirror. So this fella now has some spines along his hip. Sort of going to meet underneath him on his underbelly area. And he's also got some mean looking spines on his hip and his spine. So I wouldn't like to get too close to him. He looks sharp. But also I think he's quite calm and quite gentle. It's just his outer body features. I suppose he needs to defend himself. Maybe his kind are quite rare. So his body is framing himself and his head study. And I'm going to give him, I don't like to clutter my mer people's bodies or tails with lots of fancy fins. It's okay if any artist does it. I just have a personal preference for very little fins. I think it makes them look a little bit untidy maybe. I just like the long sleek bodies. Almost serpentine bodies, we'll say. And if I had an even bigger sheet of paper or workspace here, I would get his tail winding around and back in on itself, a little bit like a snake or a naga, but I don't, so I have to fit him in and make do with the shape I have. So his tail is a little bit different. It has a sort of a tree prong and flowing fins. So I'd imagine he's quite a fancy merman species, or a fancy fellow of his kind. So in a way it is good I have made a slight mistake, because I can show off this pencil and how it performs when you add water. So I've brought myself a little water jar and a paintbrush. So I'm just going to rub it away, or wash his hands away, and we might think about them later. But I'm really happy with how he's ended up so far. I think he looks great. And when I add in the watercolour, all of this will go away, but his body will remain in a nice minty watercolour. And I brought some tissues to dab it up. So if you're going to get into watercolour or thinking about watercolour at all, I would highly recommend starting with small, not too difficult, maybe 3 colours, and some tissues to hand, or napkins even. Now, so he's got his hands flowing behind, so if I try to do you guys can't see, but if I try to pose with my thumb, hopefully I can get his fingers right. And he can even have 3 or 4 fingers. He's a dragon merman. He's not like us. So I'd imagine his hands are quite long and spindly looking. Big hands too. I might keep the paddle hands. I think they look quite fun actually. Yeah, so trying to work out. It's harder with doing it myself. You guys can't see me, but with my other hand I'm trying to pose and see, have I got this right? Maybe palms up. And little finger sort of splayed. And thumb somewhere. So like I said, I'm not too fussed on his hands or really anything to do with his body just yet, because I haven't added in the paint yet. If I add in a background, it'll sort of fix his shape, but not yet, so I can still make some changes. Let's give him some more spines on his shoulder blades. And try not to forget the spines in his main portrait. So he's got a lot of spines. I wonder, does he lose them? And if so, can he regrow them? Possibly. So yeah, so these spines sort of meet in a sort of branch out in a diamond shape around his spine and his shoulders. I'm not going to put any on his shoulders, these upper arms, just yet. But as for the larger portrait, again, I'm going to hint them in, try and find out the curve of his spine. And like I said, in the watercolours, I will be emphasising these in white, maybe even white gouache. That could be another part of the video. I'll show you guys how I highlight things in white gouache on top of watercolour. And yes, it does work. Because certainly the way I do art, I don't just stick to one medium. I like to throw everything at it, everything. So let's give him some, yeah, I have something here under his chin. I might do a full portrait, a full-on view of him one day, because these spines on his face, they look quite interesting. And I'll give him some barbels, maybe like a catfish, and yeah. So I'm not going to worry too much about that, because I will clean him up with, I have a kneadable eraser. And just before I watercolour, I like to clean everything up with a kneadable eraser. So they have many uses. So there he is. So he's sketched out fully. And I'm happy with that. Now, sometimes I wouldn't necessarily be happy with that, and I would do a sketch maybe twice or 3 times even. Rub it out and do one again over and over. But no, this time I am very, very happy with that. It's always important as well to maybe do a ballpoint pen sketch even beforehand, like I have done. This is my kneadable eraser. So what I like to do is roll it up in a sausage shape like this, and dust and dirt be damned, just gently roll it over. So we're not, don't press too hard, and unlike an ordinary eraser, don't scratch in at it, because then you'll remove everything. Just nice and neatly just take off most of the sketch lines and press in slightly, but don't scratch. And as I'm doing here, I'm shaking you guys now, but sort of rocking motions as well. So all along here, and trying to get it in on his underbelly, where the darkest sketch lines are. And sometimes you can do a pad like that, and other times rocking motion or circular motion, and then roll it like a sausage. And you will see it does take off some of the sketch lines, but hopefully it's still enough of a guide to do your painting around. So once again, I'll take him up a little bit higher. So some of my sketch lines have disappeared. I also see tiny ones here in his face, and I'll show you what I do to get rid of the very tiny ones. Yeah, more tiny ones. So another very useful tool is a Derwent pencil eraser. So this is actually an eraser, but it's a pencil. And I might just pare the nib of it, because it does gather up a lot of dust and dirt. And so does he, so that's another recommendation. Don't blow anything. If you have a little small makeup brush, just wipe it away. And don't rub either, because the oil and dirt from your hands will inevitably cause sort of muckiness. So I'm just going to show you, hopefully close enough. This acts like an eraser. I think it's vinyl, maybe some kind of rubber, not sure, but you can use it like a pencil, but you're erasing. So it does very, very minute details, and it comes with a brush on the nib, because yeah, it leaves little traces of rubber dust behind. And as you can see, I'm just finalizing details for him and just tidying him up where I can. So He's not going to have any details he doesn't need before I paint him. And once he's got the painting down, the watercolours, we can hopefully add and build up layers and detail. So he's going to have more whiskers as well, so I can be showing you guys in a later video how I add whiskers and things in gouache, and how I might do some, maybe I will show a little bit of teeth in gouache, but not yet. So this is working away nicely, cleaning up his quite nice face, and we'll do some more on his tail here and along here. So sometimes it's a matter of just slimming in these lines and taking them in, and do some over his shoulder. So there we go. And we'll check his big fancy tail too. So usually I know what colours I'm going to put down on him now. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'll take a break and do a little colour test. But in his case, I know exactly what colours I'm going to pick for him. So it's even more streamlined. And we'll just carefully brush those little filings, little scratchings away. Like I said, never wipe with your own hand, and don't blow either. So just paint them away, so to speak, preferably in one direction, but I'll do two directions. So there he is. He's all sketched out and neat and tidy for the painting. So stay tuned for when I paint him, and thanks very much for watching.